expedition vehicles. This was the first one, called the Maximod, which accidentally ended up in the lobby of the Museum of Modern Art for 3 months and became a Tonka toy. And we started getting into the world. This is basically taking the NATO countries and deciding how in a world where terrorism happens and the decision-making process is faster than politics wants it to be, creating war games to actually show people different ways to think about visualizing our freedom. How do you command space command and control? So the idea of how you take all of the commercial, government, non-government assets, put them together to coordinate the chaos we call outer space. This is our modeling and simulation dome. I think it's the highest performance system in the world. It's 100 megapixels at 60 hertz in real time with an array processor that computes it. You can see the 50 1080p high definition projectors at the bottom, which are mapped to make the 140-foot image. How do you prevent helicopters from crashing in Afghanistan and Iraq? We were asked to develop a system that lets you land successfully through dust clouds, which form instantly. The sand there is very old sand. It's like talcum powder, and obscures visibility, and helicopter pilots get disoriented. So we designed and built in 3 months a system to fix that. How do you fuel the tankers of the future? And the system was built at 10 times high definition television resolution 10 years ago. So it's kind of a landmark. National Counterterrorism Center is designed to collect all of the information that nobody talks. How do you build rapid prototyping centers for other people? We designed the Lockheed Martin Center for Innovation, and taking what we learned about rapid prototyping at Disney and in my prior life, and saying, well, how do you institutionalize that to enable large corporations to move faster? This was a problem that we solved for Northrop Grumman, Fire Scout, which is their remote control helicopter. It had an awful interface. We were asked to build a new one. And how much time do we have? 6 weeks. So 6 weeks from start to finish, that system was designed, built, software integrated, and 2 systems delivered. Moving quickly is sort of an artifact of it. How do you design these things? I'm out of time, so I'll probably stop. But they go on for about another week and a half. The lunar lander, and this is my daughter.
Can I please leave the stage now?
You're good. Again, questions to making movies. I met Alex McDowell when we were teaching quantum mechanics to Steven Spielberg.
So exactly, Minority Report was where we met. I want to talk a little bit about world building, which I teach now at USC, and I practice as creative director at a 5D studio. But my background is as a production designer. And the big kind of flip for me, the film that I think flipped 20th century process on its head and pushed us into the 21st century for film was this film, Minority Report, which had several disruptors, one of which was the price of computation had dropped to the point where my crew started coming in with computers loaded with the kind of equipment that would have cost, or the kind of software that would have cost $100,000. And so we started completely analog and ended the first fully digital art department. But the big disruption was that this film had no script. So we had to, the writer and I started on the same day, and we had to create a world with very, very few premises. We knew where we were when we were Washington, D.C. 2050, and we knew about disruption at the center, which was precogs, and we knew that Steven wanted future reality, not science fiction. Out of that came the film. The script was written alongside the world. And what we realized after we stood back from it was a few things: that the design of the world preceded the telling of the story. The world became a container for multiple narratives. So we could have told 100 stories inside this world, even though, so if we could have said Tom Cruise, if he turned left instead of right, we would have known where he was going and what he was doing. That stories were emerging logically and organically out of the world. And that world building was stimulating these complex systems and emerging technologies in the real world. So there's now over 100 patents that you can trace back to stories that haven't yet been told about objects that now exist in the world. And that we can sculpt this shared imagination into existence. So The process for me looks a little bit like this. This is going through the what if, why not disruption of the center. So the precogs challenge the world in this case. We surround them with context, the where are we, when are we, Washington, D.C. We then establish ecologies and domains from that. There's the horizontal, if you look at this as a slice through a sphere, all of the points that inform the world are kind of points of logic that are integrally connected to one another to make this holistic space. And then we investigate with core samples, these sort of verticals, that tell us more about the world and challenge the world. So from that broad horizontal, you can look at specific verticals. You can look at urban planning, time and space. You can look at advertising and consumer space, the role of the environment on the individual. You can look at transportation. You can look at data and technology. In this case, the gesture system was evolved here at MIT by a young man called John Underkoffler, who joined us as an in-house scientist in the art department, and pitched his idea of gesture language to Stephen and Tom, and that was ingested. And so the film became a very, very high-priced design fiction for Oblong, which was this company that is now a 70-person startup and has their equivalent in Fortune 500 companies. If you take this idea of the vertical, this is just taking the one strand of the transportation system. We asked the question, how does Tom Cruise get to work in the morning? And then saw how that evolved into a specific vehicle that could move vertically and horizontally, went through the process of design visualization, then prototyping, rapid prototyping, printing a small model for Stephen to approve, and then actually CNC cutting molds for the full scale. So a full sort of data set going through the entire system. I did Man of Steel, and the way we triggered the design, a world build for this was, why does Superman have an S on his